Long as I'm the number one, I don't care who come after. When I came from Africa, they call me booty scratcher. Now they scream a nigga name when I
What's
say
up, people?
who's
Welcome
the
back to the BCMA podcast. That's the Black Clover Martial Arts podcast. It's your boy Lucky from Lucky's Muay Thai, and this is episode number 80. In this episode, we're going to talk about where you been, Luck. Where you been? We'll get into that. We'll talk about the UFC 296. I'll give you my picks, at least for the main card. And then at the end of it, we'll kind of touch on just a little, why do we do this? But first, if you like the show, tap the like, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend, drop a comment in the comments section so that other people know and the algorithm knows you want to see more. So give me more. If you want to stop by the gym, hit us up at www.luckysmt.com. You can go on the website and you can sign up for a trial class. We'd love to have you come by. The classes are getting busy as always, and we are going to probably be moving to a new place by the end of 2024. So you should get in where you fit in before the train leaves the station. Is that a thing people still say? I don't know. But if you want to try jiu-jitsu, Roberto Carrero is at our gym and he teaches fantastic jiu-jitsu. You can hit him up at Carrero BJJ on Instagram. You can also hit me up directly at Lucky's Muay Thai on Instagram, and I'll get back to you, sign you up, get you in, and you'll be doing the thing, getting in shape and having a great time with a family of awesome people. So hit us up, www.luckysmt.com. Okay, where you been, Luck? Well, right as I started to get ready to shoot this episode, my grandmother passed, and that's a really big deal, obviously. To some it's a big deal, to others maybe not, but for me it was an enormous deal. So it kind of took a little bit out of me, and then the gym and fights and whatever else got in between and in the way, and the holiday and everything else. So I'm back going into the end of the year and the beginning of next year. We will drop as many of the podcasts and technique videos and all that stuff as possible, and hopefully 2024 will be the year that we break through on the martial arts podcasting game. Is that even a thing? I don't even know, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. Anyway, we'll talk about these fights a little bit, so let's kind of get into that. We should get into that right now. All right, let's get into this main card of UFC 296. I'm going to try to give you some picks. I don't know if they're going to be right. Fighting is such a weird thing, but this has some good names on it, so let's go for it. The main card kicks off with Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. The real question, I think, going into this is, how is Tony Ferguson going to be? We know he was training with David Goggins. Stay hard. But he was already mentally tough, physically tough, but getting a little older, been through a lot of wars, clearly could have retired at any point in the last couple of fights, and he was mentally tough already. And there's a thing that we say in fighting sometimes, and that's sometimes somebody's too tough for their own good, and Tony Ferguson might be already like that, and adding more mental toughness, if that's even possible, to me it makes me wonder if is it going to allow him to sustain a longer beating? Not to say that Paddy Pimblett's going to put a whooping on him, but, I don't want to see Tony Ferguson get battered. And I don't know that he will. I feel like he's, he looks in great shape. He sounds like he's ready to go. He obviously had David Goggins as like a mentor through this. He's going to be in his corner. So I feel like he has a lot of advantages going into this, especially coming off of the fights he's had and the wars and all that stuff and the losses and the front kick by Michael Chandler, which, the fight with Gaethje where he kind of stuttered when he got clocked, those kind of things for me make me worry about fighters in the long term of their life and their health, because those things you leave a little bit in the octagon for sure. Paddy Pimblett, on the other hand, I'm not certain. I mean, I hadn't seen a lot from him. I'm assuming he's been trying to stay better shape. He said he was going to do that. He had obviously an injury, and he's trying to come back from that. So this is going to be an interesting fight. It's a great opportunity for Paddy Pimblett to get back, rocking and rolling, And it's also a great opportunity for Tony Ferguson to perhaps go out on his, go out on a high note, not on a shield, but go out on a high note with his shield and sword in hand. So we shall see. For me, I'm going to stay hard, man, which that didn't come out right. But David Goggins says it's cool. So Tony Ferguson is my pick. I feel like, why not Tony? And hopefully when he wins, he'll toss his gloves in the middle and go out in a blaze of glory as one of the, greatest lightweights, ever in the division. Great win streaks and just an all-time personality for the UFC, and what a fantastic career. So I would hope that he does this and bounces, but who the hell knows? It's also one of those things where the UFC doesn't really, they're not concerned about their older fighters having an easy day at the office, so to speak, or, going out with somebody, on a fight that's like a real winnable fight. So this one may not be a winnable one for him, but we shall see. Who do we have? Shavkat Rakhmonov. So I think you say it more like that. Versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Now, if you don't know Rakhmonov's work, he's 17-0, 17 finish. He's an absolute smasher. He puts people away. I mean, literally puts people away. And he does it in multitude of ways. He doesn't have to strike with you. He can grapple with you. He's really, really, really good. The thing that I wonder is if the UFC felt the need to give Stephen Wonderboy Thompson one of the toughest fights he could possibly have based off of some things that may have happened in the past recently involving showing up for a fight and deciding not to take the replacement fight and still wanting to get paid. And the UFC being like, meh, we don't really want to pay you for that. So there was a little bit of static at that point, and I don't know that the UFC is that vindictive. Although the current lawsuit and the emails and text messages that have come out do seem to show that the UFC could be that vindictive. So maybe they gave him this fight because we want him to get smashed by Shavkat. But the real issue for Shavkat is Stephen Thompson is fantastic at keeping range, bouncing on the feet, and I think he could actually do it throughout every round if he had to, especially a 3-round fight, without fail. So Shavkat, though he is a hunter, he is going after you all the time, has great power, great subs. He might have trouble trying to catch up with Stephen Thompson. And Wonderboy's also tough as fuck. So what we could see is Shavkat Rakhmonov could make a fantastic splash and really show people at his 18th finish in a row that, like, Stephen Thompson didn't have anything for me. Let's get on with it. Give me those top two and let's do it. Or Stephen Thompson could lose, but still not look bad, just based off of his ability to move so well, strike from range, and continue to move. He's slick, and when you're slick, you can find ways to survive even if you're not doing well in the fight. And I think there's a possibility that Shavkat really goes after him, and Stephen Thompson moves and moves and moves and makes it very difficult for him, and it becomes a thing of survival. There's also this other thing where Stephen Thompson might crack him coming in, and who knows what happens. But for that fight, I got to go Shavkat Rakhmonov. He hasn't been beat, 17-0. And he's coming in here to really, really make a splash. So that's my pick for that. I mean, man, this is going to be crazy. All right, let's move on. Who else is on this card? Oh, Pantoja versus Royval. All right, so these two dudes have fought already. And is it Royval that won twice or Pantoja? I think Pantoja won twice. The thing is, these two guys are both very skilled, very aggressive. Royval wants some get back, and he's trying to he wants that belt, and it's the perfect opportunity for him to go out there and showcase that he's really ready now. Pantoja, on the other hand, when he won that belt, he talked about his father, because his father wasn't there for him when he was a kid, and he talked about he asked his father, "Are you proud now?" And to me, that's super, super emotional, and obviously it helps motivate. And I think that maybe since he did all that work and made it to the top, now's the time to like really, really enjoy it. And I hope that I really like both of these guys. I hope they go out and put on a hell of a show. And I'm just gonna go with Pantoja because I feel like it's his time to shine for the moment. But we shall see. Royval's a motherfucker. Last fight. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Man, look. Colby hasn't fought. He's fought like, one time in the last year and a half or a year. I just don't. You just don't. You know how he fights, but you don't know what to expect. Like, these years in between fights, not everybody's like a Floyd Mayweather that can fight once a year, or twice. Even he was fighting twice a year. Colby's got a lot to prove. He's got a lot of, I think, doubters and people questioning, like, what's really going on with all this off the, out of the cage stuff with Masvidal and, getting cracked and all this court cases and, I had a brain injury and this and that and all this time off. And also, this is his third title shot or whatever it is. Leon Edwards has been on a roll. He just beat Usman twice. The first time by sheer will and superior technique at the very end of the fight, and the second fight by basically mauling. And there wasn't much that Usman could do wrestling-wise and grappling-wise with him, especially in the second fight. So that leads me to believe that it's possible for him to be able to stave off Colby Covington's wrestling. And he's also one hell of a striker. And I don't know... Listen, Colby was getting pieced up at a lot of moments by Usman. Leon Edwards is at least, one or two levels above Usman in striking, period. And I don't know that he's going to be able to handle sharp, crisp striking like this if he couldn't handle Usman's striking. Also, I think Leon Edwards has a height and reach advantage, which I could be wrong, but I feel like Colby's going to come in there to bring it, but it's going to be it's not going to be what he maybe thinks it's going to be. And I hope he's out there to put on a show because he fights like a maniac. I don't like all the out of the cage shit, but that's not for me. That's for those other people. So, yeah, man, those are my picks. I feel like it's going to be fantastic. I don't even want to talk about the Ian Gary situation because all of the drama and shit that went on. Like, UFC is like a drama factory. We used to talk about way back when it was starting, and people would compare it to like WWE and stuff like that. And I think there was a pocket of people that would sort of be like, not angry about it, but would defend the UFC as being like a completely different type of thing. This is real. That is fake. Or at least, manufactured, manipulated, whatever you want to call it. And I think that the overwhelming change in the most recent years, of the last 10 years of the UFC, is that it's become a lot more like a WWE manufactured style of entertainment. And I mean that because of all the fights and dolly throwing and fighting outside of the cage and fights in the hotels, shout out to Bobby Green and all these other things. Like, this has become a lot like one of those manufactured WWE type of organizations, which is cool, man, if that's what you like. For me, I was doing martial arts before the UFC was around, and I loved it. So for me, that stuff is not as important as the guys fighting, the gals fighting. Speaking of, like, there hasn't been much going on. I feel like there hasn't been a lot of stuff happening. I mean, John Jones and Stipe's off. Aspinall wins the interim, and then They say you can't fight for the title against either one of the against Stipe even. Stipe's gonna wait for John, and now I mean it's just it feels like everything's kind of on hold. Um, Pereira went up, did his thing, and now he's sitting pretty. You know, like everybody's kind of hanging out here, hanging out in their spots. Not many big things are going on. These are probably the best fights that I've seen, or hopefully will be the best fights that have been lined up in a little while. So I'm looking forward to those. The fights, I guess they were there in New York. I don't remember, but there was all the slam knockouts and all that stuff. Those were pretty good fights. But overall, I mean, big names, you know, big extravagant shows. We hadn't seen a lot. The biggest news obviously has been PFL buying Bellator, and who knows where that's going to go. So anyway, that's my picks. I hope you enjoyed them, and I hope that you like this whole setup. I'll be doing more of this. All right. I hope those picks helped you. I don't know if they will or not, but as I said earlier, my grandmother passed, and you know, the first thought that came to my mind was she proud? Did I make her proud? Was she like, I don't know. It was a lot. So um, I wonder now, for when we talk about why we do things and the reasons, and a lot of people say, you know, do it for you, or other people say that, you know, I do it for my family, whatever the case may be. But I think, you know, there's definitely always something to do it for. And maybe I said those things along the way, or maybe I've mentioned, like, I want people to be proud of me. I want my daughter to look at me a certain way, or whatever the case may be. But when my grandmother passed, that was the first moment that I really felt like, oh shit, did I make her proud? Was I the person that she'd hoped I would become? And you've seen it throughout fighting. I mean, the Pantoja Royval fight. I mean, Pantoja's breakdown and when he won the title tells you everything. Fighters go through this crazy, and athletes in general, thing where they put their bodies through all this stress and all these emotions and all these different things. And at the end of the day, you can definitely do it for yourself. But I feel like there's always going to be this feeling of like, what was my legacy, or how was I looked at? And did I make the people that were important to me feel like the efforts they invested in me were worth it, were valuable? And I think it's kind of important, I guess, to have and to realize, just from a perspective of whether you realize it now or not, you might look back later and understand that there were other people that you should have maybe thought about in a deeper sense along the way. Now, I love my grandmother, so I wasn't stressing that so much, but I did, just for a moment, wonder if I had done everything I could to make her proud. And I think that, I hope that, I'm sure that she's proud. But just so you know, there's more out there than just doing it for yourself. There are people in your life that you won't realize how important they are until they're gone. And whatever efforts you made, whatever decisions you made, you'll wonder about those decisions and how they may have looked at them while they were here, and whether you could have made better ones. So, why do we do it? We do it for lots of reasons. But we should also do it because people have done things to help us be in positions, whether we realized it or not, to make greater strides than maybe they were able to in their lifetimes. Maybe not in my case. My grandmother was badass. But anyway, That's it. Good luck with your picks. If you like the show, keep the like, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend, all of that jazz. If you want to stop by the gym, www.luckysmt.com. Looking forward to seeing you. It's the holiday season, baby. Black Santa's coming. Peace. I'm out.
This world will take a good man and they change him to a villain when the system's been set up by racists trying to kill him. I just wanna